Hello and welcome to this video looking at survey commands and COGO or coordinate geometry in TBC. If you're unfamiliar with TBC, I recommend going back and looking at our previous videos, as this video will be a continuation of some of the processes that we've talked about previously. In this video we're going to look at the basic survey commands in TBC and some of the different options that are available to you, as well as have a deep dive into the coordinate geometry command itself. We're going to look at creating a COGO and editing one, as well as how that can then create parcels and parcel reports as needed. My name is Ross McAtamney. I'm part of the technical software team at UPG and I'm based in Melbourne. So let's look at the survey commands to begin with that are available in TBC. You can import your data into TBC from a job file or a JXL out of a Trimble instrument by either dragging and dropping it into the plan view or using the import menu that is available in TBC. For other manufacturers, we do still support that. However, we recommend looking at how that data can be handled from your instrument and be brought into TBC. So feel free to contact us directly and have a conversation with that. With regards to once the data is in TBC, the first place I would look at is the Home tab, which has a data grouping. It's about 3/4 of the way along towards the right-hand side of that Home tab. In the data grouping, there is a point spreadsheet and an optical spreadsheet. This will show you the raw data information that was collected in the field. The point spreadsheet shows you the information of the physical related to the physical point that was measured. So there is the point ID, the XYZ coordinates, and the feature code. You'll also notice here that there is a blue column for the point ID, then the XYZ coordinates are grey, and then blue again for the feature code. In TBC, anywhere that it's blue, it's going to be editable, so you can edit that parameter. If it's grey, that means it's locked and we won't let you edit that. The grey fields are locked because they were a physical measurement out in the field. We try and retain data integrity in TBC wherever possible, so that's why we don't let you make these edits. You can select an individual field and edit that information, or you can group select it in this window by using the dark grey column right at the very left-hand side. You would just select the first row that you want and then hold Shift and go down to the row that you're wanting to edit. Then to edit that group that you have selected, I would open up the Properties window and make the edits within the Properties window. There's also the optical spreadsheet. So the optical spreadsheet looks at the physical measurement from the total station. In here there are some things that you can edit, such as whether the point is enabled or not. In TBC there are 3 levels of point being enabled. That is enabled, so it will be used in all calculations. Enabled as a check, where we will handle it just as a check shot against a point, or it's disabled, where we will disregard that point, however the information has been stored. When you're out in the field and you delete a point on an access controller, that point will still be stored, however it will be stored as a disabled point. So this is why we say we do retain that data integrity. You still have that record of that point. In here, if you're having an off day, you can also edit the total station height or the target height. And you can also change the prism type to edit the prism constant if needed. We let you change these parameters as you need because we know that sometimes there needs to be edits. Once the data comes into TBC as well, you will see that the Project Explorer is populated with all the points. Within this too, you will notice that there are some points that may be in red. This indicates that they will have a flag against them as they've fallen out of tolerance, or they're a point that can't be computed, and you should go and look at each of these occurrences to determine what has gone on to make sure that they are okay. If they're not okay, I would simply just disable the point. When looking at the survey commands in TBC, the survey tab itself is where we house most of these commands. You'll find that it's broken up into a couple of groups: field data, GNSS baselines, optical, network, and COGO. For field data, we're looking at processing the points against a feature code and also creating and managing feature codes, as well as merging survey points. In GNSS, we're looking at the information with regards to baseline processing and all the computation that is associated with that. For optical, we're looking at the optical instruments. So there is a total station editor, which you can key in information, as well as the level editor, which we'll look at in a minute. Then there's also the network grouping, which looks at your network adjustments and site calibrations. There's a full computation technique under the hood in TBC that gives you that flexibility of getting the right calculations out. Finally, there's the COGO grouping on the end, which looks at the transform survey points functionality, where we look at shifting data from point A to point B. Again, we will look at that in a minute, as well as the create COGO button, which we will dive deeper into later on. When you're looking at the optical grouping, there are two main buttons here that I would look at. One is the total station editor, where you will see the information that we've stored in the points and the optical spreadsheets that we talked about previously. However, we're showing you the information based on the total station setup. So you will see the total station setup, and then associated with that will be all the points that are taken at that particular total station. We categorize the points as in terms of whether it's part of the Travis or they were a physical check shot as well, so it may be easier to view and review your data in the total station editor than it is in an optical or point spreadsheet. Another thing to note here is that if you've been out in the field and your controller has stopped working for some reason and you've had to manually record the points in your field notes, you can enter that total station data in here as a shot. So you do have that flexibility of putting that information into TBC if you need to. The level editor option in the opticals grouping here looks at leveling data. This is where we would show you all your DINI information for digital levels if you have one, or you can key in your information from a analog level if you need to. We will also manage and maintain all of your leveling runs within here, as well as identifying what points that height is associated to that you've calculated. As I mentioned also in the field data tab, there is a way of merging survey projects. So if you have survey information in one VCE or TBC file and you want to bring that into the file that you are working on, you have the ability to import survey data from another VCE project into the one that you are working on. Transform survey points is the option that we use to shift data around the project. It is a least squares adjustment, a least squares calculation method. However, there is also a helmet calculation that you can do if you wanted to. While there is a 5 and 7 point transformation, which will have a preset set of options in terms of what you can shift, you do have the flexibility of manually selecting the method that you want to shift the data in. These are selected in the transformation parameters in the middle there, and you can turn on the tick box to include that particular transformation type in the shift. There are two ways that you can shift data. You can either key in the shift in the field. So if you want to shift a point 1,000 meters to the easting, then you can type in 1,000 with the easting ticked on, and that will shift all the data that is selected 1,000 meters to the easting direction. If you want to do an elevation check, then you do the same thing there. You can type in your elevation shift and it will apply that value. Another way you can do it, which is how you would shift data from, say, GDA 94 to GDA 2020, is have common points in both GDA 94 coordinates, which essentially say you are working in, and your common points in GDA 2020, which you want to shift to. You would then be able to select the point in the GDA 94 reference frame and shift that to the GDA 2020 reference frame. You just pair up the points that are common and then apply the shift. Now, while you can, for a lot of cases, use only 1 point as a shift, we would recommend doing 3 points as a minimum, because that will get you better control and it will also allow you to manage things like rotations and scale factors as well. So just be aware that yes, you can, for a lot of shift techniques, do 1 or 2 points, but you may have problems associated with that. There's also proportioning tools in TBC. So this is single and double proportioning. When we're talking about single proportioning, we're talking about splitting an edge up into smaller lots. And in the proportioning tool, you would select a lot. So in the example above here, you're saying the 80.06 meter lot edge, you want to split that into two 40 meter lots. TBC will do the adjustment to make them 40.03 to account for the entire lot boundary. A better example may be the example below, where there are 3 lots where we want to shift that we want to split 119.94 up into 40 metre lots. You'll notice that the central lot is 40 metres because we can meet that parameter, and then the two side lots are 39.97 metres. This will make that calculation of lot boundaries a lot easier if you're trying to subdivide a lot. There's also the double proportioning option, which allows you to calculate the coordinates of a point when you have 4 bearings shot from that particular point. This is a fairly standardized calculation technique, and if you need to know the coordinates and you have that bearing information, this double proportioning tool is what you would be using. Other tools that we have in TBC are traverse and network adjustments. Most people are shifting towards more of a network adjustment these days. There is a full calculation technique under the hood for network adjustments in TBC. We'll show you error ellipses and give you flexibility to constrain points or to allow points to be shifted. The only requirement we have, particularly for when using this on total station information, is that 1 point minimum is constrained. So that would be a control quality point that has been keyed in. Then you should be able to run this process without a problem. With regards to other things like GNSS processing, we can handle BOST lines and do all of that computation in TBC, as we mentioned before. Remember that if you are using a post-correction process like VRS now, that data will already be coming in corrected and you won't need to use the baseline processing tools. When the data is in TBC, we will show you the data according to the type of data it is, and there are ways of identifying where that data was collected from. You'll notice in the screenshot in the middle here that the green lines are representing total station information, and we are showing you where the total station is set up and a line out to the point that was measured from that total station. There's also some blue lines in here, and they represent GNSS data was captured also on the same site. We can use multiple different types of instruments to collect data and handle it all in the same project without any issues in TBC. We can also use this information to identify more easily and accurately where shots were taken from. So if there's a problem with the shot, we know at a glance where that information has come from. You can turn off this information within the raw data view of the View Filter Manager if you need to. There's also the Processing Feature Codes option on the Survey tab, which is used to process the points collected in the field against the FXL. This is covered in more detail in another session, so feel free to come back to that session if you want to learn more about this functionality. So let's have a look at the COGO command itself. The COGO command is looking at coordinate geometry. So we are creating essentially lots and parcels in TBC. Now you can do this traditionally using a manual process using CAD points, where you would key in a starting CAD point and then calculate all the lot points with regards to that, or use your line work to create all the lines that you would need to. However, this is a very manual process, and if you need to make an edit, you'll have to edit everything manually with regards to what you've made the change against. The coordinate geometry tool itself in TBC streamlines this process, where we can create a COGO or multiple COGOs within the same project, and we can allow you to go back to that COGO to make edits. Everything will have that flow-on effect. We will create all the points that it's needed as a functional point within TBC, including the line work and any lot parcels. However, we will store those points within a COGO as well, so that you can go back and identify the physical points that were generated within that COGO functionality. When you open the COGO tool, you are presented initially with a whole heap of options. We will give you the options with regards to what layer that COGO is going to be placed onto, as well as whether lines or points are being created. If you don't want to create the lines automatically or the points automatically in this process, you don't have to, but the option is there. We can start at a physical starting point. So this is the point ID that you are starting at for this particular COGO. We also determine what layer the points are going to be placed on. So if you want the layers to be different to your line work, then that is handled in this setup stage. We can deal with horizontal distances for grid and for ground and apply a scale factor in the calculations. There's also the ability to determine what type of curved distances are being input, as well as the ability to apply a global rotation to your COGO. So you would be entering a rotation in that is applied by default to all the parameters in the calculation. This makes the editing and creation of a COGO sometimes easier, so you are just dealing with standardized angles and turnouts rather than specific values. Once you've created your COGO, you are presented with a new window, which is shown here on the right. In here underneath, there are a whole heap of drop-down buttons. These buttons are used to set up and create your COGO and all the points and line work associated with it. You'll notice that when you drop them down, there is a shorthand 2-letter code on the right-hand side. This is the shorthand that can be used in the window above, where you can just type it in on every new line and it will automatically call that command and allow you to use that command without having to find it from the drop-down list. In that window there on the right-hand side, you can edit, maintain, type in directly. You need to use the options that appear underneath. You can type it straight in. We can also use shorthand in the window, so you can use azimuth values for directions, which is shown in the screenshot to the right-hand side down the bottom here. It's showing you the different types of methods and how that effect will have on your measurements. You can put in values as degrees, minutes, seconds with spacing, that's fine, as well as all the command windows in TBC where you are entering a value can be also used as a calculation. So you can do 180 plus your DMS and that will do that calculation on the fly in the window and you will be just doing that edit there. So don't feel you need to pre-calculate everything. The windows where you enter data into TBC can all allow you to do these calculations. As a tip, you can also put F at the end of something when you are using feet, and that will do that calculation if your project is set in meters, from feet to meters automatically. So the example here we are looking at is creating a COGO from scratch. So we're starting with a base COGO. Now you can start with your start point being a physical point that is already existing in your job. You can even tie to existing points in your job, or you can start from a point that you create in this function. As you step through the process, each command that you call has options down the bottom of the window, which you can fill out, or you can type those commands straight in that text window above it. In that window above, you can delete a line out, you can cut it, you can copy, you can make a direct edit in that window, and that will be reflected on screen. So it is not a locked down window, it's not just a view of what has been done, it is a fully editable window that you can make your edits in. When you are working on a new line, we will highlight that line. So as you can see, every line that we are working on is highlighted when that command has been entered. In the bottom right-hand side here, you can see the COGO has been, this particular job has been completed. We've created all the points and lines that we would expect. Each point that has been created has been given a unique point number, which is a point that is handled in the points grouping of TBC, as well as being handled in the COGO itself. If you want to go back and look at a COGO that you've previously created, you can select a COGO line and it will highlight that line in TBC. This line can be then edited in the window down the bottom, or it can be edited directly in that line as a text item. So once you've done this change, it will have a flow-on effect to any other parameters that will change as well. If we extended this line out on the left-hand side, the right-hand side of the lot would extend out as well, as for example. So that calculation has been done already as you do these edits. Multiple COGOs can exist in the same project if you want. So don't feel that you need to have just one project per COGO. You can design an entire subdivision with multiple COGOs if you need to. The idea behind a COGO is that you can go back and edit that at any stage. You don't need to look at each individual point once it's been done. The COGO is an active element that you can return to, reopen this window and edit it on the fly if you need to, because we understand that projects change and you need to make adjustments, so that can be done at any stage. Once you've finished creating your COGO, you can then do a parcel map check. So the parcel map check will identify all the parcels within the COGO. It will close off any closed line work. It will also allow you to do things like create information that will tie to the labeling of that parcel. So you could put, say, lot 1 as it in this example, as opposed to just the number 1. And it will give you a whole heap of parameters with regards to identifying that as a parcel. Once it's done, you will notice that the parcel is then added into the bottom of the COGO. So that grouping of the COGO now contains, as you expand it out in the Project Explorer, in that bottom screenshot on the right there, it contains all the line work, all the points that were created, as well as the parcel. Now, again, these are also stored, the points are also stored in the points grouping. This is just showing you what points are associated with this COGO. Once you've done a map check, a parcel check, you can then do the map check report. So the map check report will give you all the information with regards to what has gone on in that COGO, all the line work, all the coordinate information with regards to the points that are generated, as well as the area of the lot and any misclosure. This report can be exported as a PDF, a Word, or an Excel spreadsheet. When you're going along and creating it, your COGO, there are things that you can do after it's been generated, such as macros are available to allow you to define an area, and it will split up your specific lot into smaller lots based on an area size. So there are some macros available that can create parcel boundaries automatically to assist you further in this process once you've generated these things. And with that, I will wrap up this particular video. Thank you for paying attention. If you would like more information, please reach out to someone from UPG or SITECH, and we are more than happy to help out. We look forward to seeing you in future videos. Thank you.